All right, so you know how to graph when you're given an equation in slope-intercept form, but what do we do when you're given an equation like this one that is not written in that y equals mx plus b format? Well, you have two options. I'm going to walk you through those two options. All right, so in this format that we want, we can see that y is all by itself and everything else is on the other side. We have something times x plus b. So I am trying to get this y by itself. But the problem is right now there's this x plus over here. Well, I can subtract that x from both sides to get it out of our way. And in this situation, since that was the only thing I had to move, that was pretty easy. And we end up with y equals 10 minus x, or I can think of that as negative x plus 10. Now I can see that I have a slope of negative 1, or down 1 over 1. And I have a y-intercept of positive 10. And so I could graph that. I could put a dot here on the y-axis at 10, and then go down 1 and over 1 to make my line. And that would be my line. The other thing I could do is I could use Desmos to help me out. So we know in Desmos, if I type in an equation, it will graph it for us. So I'm going to take this original equation, x plus y equals 10. And it will graph it for me, and I can see that it needs to cross the y-axis at 10, and then I need to go down 1 and over 1 to form my line. And I could go back to IXL and do that exact same thing, and that would work. So those are two methods that we can use to graph from an equation that is not in y-intercept form. Let's go ahead and look at one more example. This one's a little bit more complicated looking. If I were trying to change this to y-intercept form, remember I want to get y by itself over here. So I'm going to first get rid of this 5x here by subtracting 5x. Handwriting's really sticky right now, but you get the idea. So these cross each other out over here. That's the only reason I did that. But see, I still have 2y over here. So the second step I need to do is divide by 2. And the really important thing to do when you're doing this step is to make sure you divide both terms that are now over here by 2. And I'm going to neaten this up a little bit. I'm going to get y by itself now. I'm going to go ahead and put my x term first because that's the way we're used to seeing it. It is negative 5 halves x, and I can leave that as a fraction because remember that's just rise over run, so it's kind of nice to see it as a fraction. If it divided evenly to a whole number, I'd probably write it as a whole number, but since it doesn't, I'll leave it that way. And then negative 10 here divided by 2 is negative 5, so this becomes minus 5. And once again, I could graph that. I could go down here, put a dot at negative 5 on the y-intercept, and then go down 5 over 2, or up 5, and back 2, and that would work. Or I can use Desmos again. I can go over to Desmos, type in this equation, 5x plus 2y equals negative 10. Get rid of my old line. 5x plus 2y equals negative 10. Double check I did that right. 5x plus 2y equals negative 10. and I can see that we're crossing the x-axis, excuse me, the y-axis, my y-intercept at -5, and I can see that we're going down 5 and over 2, or I could just look for another point. So it's showing me I have a point at -2, 0, so an x-intercept of -2, and a y-intercept of -5. And I could graph it that way. All right, so we have two methods, once again, for graphing lines that are not in slope-intercept form. We can rewrite them by moving everything to the other side of the equation, so y is by itself. In this case, we got y equals -5/2 x minus 5, and then graphing it like we were. Here's my y-intercept of -5, and I can see to get there from this point, I went down 5 and over 2. So there's my slope to -5/2. Or I can go over to Desmos, graph it, and then look for my two intercepts, or my intercept and the slope, to then graph it on Excel. Hope this helps. Looking forward to seeing you do great work this week.